So thank you so much, Ken. That was wonderful. If you have questions for Ken, drop those in the chat and we'll get to them when we get to Q&A. And with that, we'll hand it over to Antonella, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Yes. Okay. Okay, can you see the presentation?
It looks like it's starting to share. There it goes. It's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So I am Antonella Semadeni, and I am an economist at FADA. The idea of this presentation is to give you a general overview of the importance of agribusiness for Argentina in terms of economic activity, exports, and employment. Then we will take a closer look at the tax burden the sector is currently facing. So to begin, FADA is the agricultural foundation of the development of Argentina. It is a not-profit institution that conducts studies and manages public policy proposals related to the agro-industry. At FADA, we always seek to provide information about the agro-industry sector. It is important to GDP, export, and employment in our country. We have many reports about corn, soy, wheat, bioethanol, pork, beef, poultry, irrigation, fertilizer, and other chains. And a major added value that FADA offers is the way these reports are communicated. We have a great communication teams that present the results of these reports in a simple and straightforward way. So this way the information is reached to all of the Argentinians, capturing the attention not only of the agricultural sector, but of all the sector and individuals. So before starting, I would like to clarify what we consider when we talk about agribusiness in Argentina in the next slides. It's commonly believed that agriculture is only the planting and the harvesting of wheat, corn, or soy, but in really it's much more than that. It is the pears and apples, wool and leather, and the fishing sector of Patagonia region, the wines of the Cuyo region, the legumes and fruits of the Northwest, and the rice, forestry, yerba mate, and tea complex of the Northeast. In addition to, of course, the wheat, corn, soybean, peanuts, and all the sunflowers of the Pampa region. Thus, when we talk about agroindustry, we are considering more than 20 agroindustrial chains throughout our country. And furthermore, we are considering all the production processes and all the actors involved, from the planting of each of these crops to the table of the Argentinians or the exports. That is not only primary production, but also industry, trade, transportation, logistics, and related services. So I think it's good to clarify that we considering more than 20 agroindustrial chains and all the productive links. Okay, so GDP is the sum of all goods and services produced in a country in a given period. Within Argentina GDP, agribusiness is the largest contributor. It represents 23.6% of GDP. So in other words, 1 of every 4 pesos of GDP come from agroindustrial chains. We see that this extremely important participation of the agroindustry has always remained between 21 and 26%. Secondly, we have the significant role played by agribusiness in the country exports. 60% of our export come from agribusiness. This means $6 of $10 that enter our country come from agribusiness. Every 6 months, FADA produces the export monitor, where it monitor each of these 20 chains in detail. So I invite you to download the full report in our website. But in terms of ranking, global ranking, our country is the world leading exporter of lemon oil and juice, soybean oil, and peanuts. In second place is yerba mate and soybean flour. In third place is corn. And then, for example, in fourth place is powdered milk. In fifth place are legumes, soy, and fisheries. And in sixth place is meat. In seventh place is wheat. So we export to more than 155 countries. That is, we are present in 80% of the world. Agribusiness is also a major generator of employment. Today, more than 4.2 million workers are employed in Argentina. This means that 2 of 10 jobs in the private sector come from agribusiness. So when we look at which sector are generate the most employment, we have beef in the first place with more than 500,000 jobs. Then follow the chains of fruits, vegetables, and legumes with 450,000 jobs. And then come the wheat, soybean, and corn chains. Okay. So when it's come to taxes, Argentina stand out for being a complex country. To explain this point, I am going to introduce you to the FADA index. This index, which we have been developing quarterly for over 15 years, seeks to show the impact of taxes on agricultural income. So, to make it clear, when a producer plants a hectare of wheat, corn, or soy, they will have income from the sale of that crop, but they will also incur expenses such as labor, inputs, fertilizers, and seeds. The difference between income and expenses is what is called economic result, or agricultural income. It's the same. This economic result, income less expenses, will be used to pay 3 things. So the first is taxes. The second is land rent, because in the Pampa region, 70% of fields are rented. And then the remainder go to the producer economic result. It can be a profit or a loss depending on the time, the region, the crop, and whether the other 2 things, taxes and rent, were extracted. So in September, which was our last measurement, the economic result of income less expenses is divided as follows. 61% go to taxes, that is indice FADA, 26% to rent, and 30% to the producer economic result. So we have the first conclusion, I repeat, 61% go to the state versus 30% to the producer, when the producer is the one who takes risks, invests, and work the land every day, depending on factor beyond they control, such as the weather or the price of the grains. They only keep 30%. This result, this is the overall result of the 6 main productive provinces in Argentina, and 4 main crops: wheat, corn, soy, and sunflowers. Then you have the full report in our website with the detail for crop and for the region. So looking at the history of the FADA index, we realize it's always been very high, greater than 60%, and in some cases reaching 90%. That is, the state takes 90% of the total in taxes. So, what taxes does Argentina agricultural pay? Okay, so I will take 1 minute to explain the 4 types of taxes that Argentina have. We have, in the first place, national taxes we call coparticipables. That are taxes that are collected by the Central National Administration and then share one part with the provinces. Example of these taxes are the VAT, value added tax, that you have to, and income tax, impuesto a las ganancias. In second place, we have national taxes we call no coparticipables, that are collected by the national administration throughout the country, but are retained entirely by the national administration, not shared with the provinces. Example of these taxes in the agricultural sector are the commonly called retenciones, that are one type of export taxes. So to understand how does the retenciones tax work? Okay, retenciones consist of deducting a percentage of the price received by the producer for the sale of the grain. Okay, I repeat, retenciones consist of deducting a percentage of the price received by the producer for the sale of the grain. Today we have 9.5% retenciones on corn and wheat, 26% on soy, 24.5% on soybean oil and soybean meal, and 5.5% on sunflower seeds. So it is a lot. So for example, if the corn costs $200 and the retenciones are 9.5%, as they currently are, the producer receives $181, no $200. Or for example, in the case of soy, if the Chicago price is $300 and the retenciones is 26%, the producer actually receives about $222. Addition to this, from this amount, FOBIN and marketing costs are subsequently deducted. As a result, Argentina producers not only bear the cost associated with commercialization, but also the export taxes, like the retenciones, which diminish the net value of the output. So going back to the explanation, among the taxes collected by the national government and not shared with the provinces are retenciones taxes. In third place, we have provincial taxes, which are collected by each province and retained by that province. For example, gross income, ingresos brutos, we call, or rural real estate. And in fourth place, we have local taxes, which are collected by town or departments and retained by that town. For example, road taxes or grain taxes. So, of the total taxes paid by the agricultural sector, how much does each tax represent in the total? Well, 61% of the total are not shared national taxes. It means retenciones. 31% are national taxes that can be shared, 6% provincial taxes, and 0.8% local taxes. So the main messages I want you to take away from this explanation is that more than half of what the agricultural sector pay is retenciones tax. And this tax doesn't return to the provinces in an activity but by definition is federal. So these retenciones are resources that leave the province and never return. So in other words, not only is the burden of taxes on agricultural income high, but when we look at the taxes paid by the sector, more than 60% are not shared taxes, meaning they don't return to the provinces. So I want to clarify two things about retenciones. The first is that this percentage of retenciones is charged regardless of the exchange rate, because in Argentina, producers don't receive payments in dollars, but are obligatory converted into pesos. This is important because Argentina often goes through a currency crisis, periods when the peso becomes overvalued or depreciated. So the country is practically a bimonetary economy. And when the peso is overvalued, as many analysts suggest it's now, it's become a problem because producers receive few dollars for the exports. Meanwhile, the percentage of retenciones doesn't change. So it's a point. And the second point is that this percentage of retenciones is charged regardless of performance or the weather. So for example, if there was a drought, it's worse because you harvest less, your yield is lower, but they still collect at least, for example, 9.5% in corn. That is why the graph showed before, FADA index of 90%. Those were years with drought, because the difference between income and expenses is smaller when there is a drought, but the percentage of the retenciones is charged the same. Consequently, the weight of the state on agricultural income is greater. Okay. So, to finish, something interesting to see is which country have these types of taxes. As this map shows, neither the United States nor Brazil, the main grain producer, have these retenciones. Only 5 countries have a percentage greater than 0.5% of GDP in export taxes. Kazakhstan, Costa de Marfil, Solomon Islands, Russia, and Argentina. So this tax explains why Argentina grains production has stagnated and is not growing over the last 20 years, unlike Brazil and the United States, for example. So, sorry if I went too fast, but to conclude, I want you to take the main messages. 1 of 4 pesos of Argentina GDP come from agribusiness. 6 of $10 that enter our country come from agribusiness. 2 of 10 jobs in the private sector come from agribusiness. And more than 60% of the economic return on 1 hectare zone in Argentina is taxes. So the state takes it all. And it's worth highlighting the enormous way that retenciones taxes have. Removing them will increase Argentina potential for grain production by more than 50%. So, well, thank you for listening. Apologize if I spoke too fast. I wanted to share all this information, which was quite a lot. I am leaving my email and WhatsApp in case you have any question about the presentation. And now I will hand it over to Ramiro for his presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Antonella.